In the last class, we have introduced to the concept called function. What is meant by function? Function is nothing but set of statements. Set of statements saved with one name. Okay, we will be giving some set of statements. We will be having. We will be giving some name to it. That I am saying as function. Okay, that can be fact. The name can be fact. That name can be FIB. That name can be FUNS. Okay, any name, some identifier we will be giving, and function name is also an identifier. By using this name only we are identifying, right? So it is also an identifier. For identifier we have discussed that some rule we have to follow. We should start with an alphabet in general. Okay, we should not start with number. We should not start with digit. We should not have like 1 FUN. Okay, we should not have 9 fact. These kind of function names are not allowed. Okay, this is not a valid identifier. This is not valid identifier. We should start with alphabet. Okay, some special characters will be there. That is an exemption. But as of now, you can understand we should not start with digit. We should start with alphabet. That is a good practice to start with alphabet. Yeah. So now we will be storing by using one name. Set of statements we are storing by using some name. Whenever we wanted to execute those set of statements, we will make use of that name and call that, so that those statements will be executed. Okay, this is the usage of functions. And yesterday we have defined a function called factorial, right? How we can define a function? By using the keyword called def. Def, then what is the next one? Function name, that is fact. Then we will be giving some value to it. Okay, so whatever the variable name that we will be using inside function definition, that we call it as inside function definition parameter. Whenever we give value, that is argument. Okay, this is what formal parameter. Okay, so fact of n. Then we will be getting the value of n. Then how we could able to calculate that, we already. What is it? F is equal to 1. F is equal to 1 for I in range n 1 comma n plus 1. Yeah. For I in range 1 comma n plus 1. What we will do, just we will be multiplying f with I and we will store in f itself. Okay, so that we will be getting the value into f. Shall I explain this one? Do you want? See, initially f value we are assuming as 1. N value is 5. What is the value of I? I we are saying as range of 1 comma n plus 1. So it will consider from 1 to n. 1 to n. 1 to 6 means it will consider 1 to 5. So 1 to 5. I value starts from 1. Now what we will do is we will multiply this 1 with f and we will store in f itself. Next we will change this I value to 2. Then we will multiply this I with f, and what is the result? 2, that will be stored in f itself. Next we will change this to 3 and we will multiply with f. Then this will become, don't concentrate on the value, concentrate on the variable, then you will get logic. Yeah. Next 3 will become 4. We will be multiplying this 4 with f. Then we will store the result in f itself. So it will become 24. Next we will change this to 5 and we will multiply this I with f and we will store in f itself. So this will become 120. Now every time what we are doing, f value, I value we are multiplying with f, then storing in f itself. Okay, like this we will be repeating. What is the value of I? Starting from 1 up to 5. It is nothing but 1 comma n plus 1. 1 to n. So in order to repeat up to n, we need to give n plus 1 here. So 1 comma n plus 1, then we will be getting f value. Now, what is the value of n factorial? What is the value of n factorial? F, isn't it? F only. So that value we can return back. Earlier we have printed directly there. Now we can able to return by using the statement called return. Okay, this is the keyword return f. Okay, now we have defined the function. This is like a form. Okay, for this form we will be supplying values. So by aligning with this, now we will take number int input, enter number. Then here just you can store into another variable. Okay, why? Because we are returning from here, so we can store that result into another number. Okay, earlier we have printed here only, so it was not returning any value, but now we are returning the value of the resultant, so that will be returned. So it will be replaced by this fact of num will be replaced by f, whatever the value we are having for f. So f will be assigned to a. Understand? Now you can print a. Okay, like this. Just you take this example, factorial function by returning a n factorial, for returning n factorial. Now write a program. I told you these kind of things also you note down. Okay, so that you can recall. Next, write a program to calculate 1 factorial plus 2 factorial plus so on up to n factorial. What is the input for this program? N. So n How you came to know? Okay. Yeah. So here f is equal to f into I, then sum we are adding. Let us yeah. No. For this problem, it will work. Let us try to see. N value is 5. Okay. Then some value we will be initializing with 0. Next, what is the other one? F value. F value is 1. Okay. Another one we want is I. Okay. Let us consider I here. Now, I value starting from 1. Then F value will be 1 only. Some value will be 1. Next, I value will be 2. F value will be 2. Some value will be 3. Sum is equal to sum plus F. What is F? 2. Sum is 1. So 1 plus 2, 3. Next, I value will be 3. What is F? 6. Then what is sum? 9. What is I? 4. Then this will become 24. Then this will become next, I value becomes 5. Then this will become 120. Then this will become 153. That's it. What is 1 factorial plus 2 factorial plus up to 5 factorial? This is 1, this is 2, this is 6, 24, 120, 144, 150, 153. Correct? So in this example, it will work. So what we have to return? Return? Yeah, here only we can print it as well. Yeah, print sum. Then what is the input? Number is the input. Afterwards, fact of yeah, like this we can. Online people, any doubt? Okay, this will work for this. Okay, this problem. Yeah, good attempt. Rest. Next, write a program to check whether the given number is prime or not by defining a function. To check whether this problem we have solved without using functions, but now you have to solve by using functions. So you will be required to define a function called prime. Is prime, you can define like that, is prime. So what is the input? One number you will be taking, then you will be checking whether it is having any factor other than 1 end itself or not. We will be seeing, then accordingly we can return. Is prime in the sense, what will be the answer in general? Is prime. Suppose if I ask, is today Wednesday? Yes or no? Similarly, is prime. Such kind of functions will be having yes or no. That means true or false. Is prime. Whether it is, if it is prime, we will be returning true. If it is not prime, we will be returning false. Such like that you use true and false. How we will be denoting? True like this, like T is capital. Okay, F is capital. Those are the values, but most of the times 1 and zeros. Okay, you use this one for better understanding. Yeah. So now we have to define a function called is prime. You can use is prime, then n will be taken as the input. Then what is the logic? We have to start from 2. We have to start from 2. Prime number logic in several ways we have seen. Yeah. So we have to start from 2. So for I in range of 2 comma n by 2 plus 1. N floor division or plus 1. Next, what we have to do? We have to check whether n is divisible by this I or not, any of these numbers or not. So n is divisible by I or not. How can we check? Whether the remainder is 0 or not, we will check. If it is divisible, then what we can say? What we can conclude? It is not a prime. So whenever it is true for at least one thing, immediately we can conclude that it is not a prime. So what we can return here, immediately we will be returning false. Okay. Suppose we will be checking from 2 to n by 2 up to 2 to n by 2, we didn't find any factor. Then what we can conclude? What we can say? It is a prime. So if this condition is not satisfied for all the instances, then this return will not be executed. Then it will keep on executing and it will end at the end, like n by 2, it will stop. Then directly we can return true. The doubt here is, suppose prime the given number is 16, we will be finding a factor, then it will return false, then again it will return true. That is the doubt. But what is meant by return statement is, return means it is executing this. You consider one function is there, definition function is there, f. Now we are writing some statements. Okay, here let us say we are having return. Okay, and some statements are there, and here we are having return. This is what we are considering. Now whenever we are executing this function, it will execute these all statements. If it encounters return, then it will return from this function, it will not execute these statements. Return in the sense, it will transfer the control back to the place where we have called. We will be calling this function, right? This is a function. We will be calling this function by supplying some value, let us say f of 9. Okay, to this one it will return automatically. Whenever we call this function, it will start executing from the first statement onwards. Suppose while executing, if it encounters a return statement, then immediately it will return to this place. Okay, it will not execute these statements, it will skip this. Understand? So what you can conclude from this discussion is, we can have any number of return statements in a function. Whatever the return statement encounters first, that will be executed. Okay, but now you can consider here, return statement is there first here, but it will not execute this one immediately. Whenever this is true, then only it will be executed. Understand? So after completing these all, if this one is not at all executed, then it will come to this. Understand? Yeah. So how we can write? Input is number. After taking the input, we will be calling whether it is prime or not. So here we will be writing like this: if is prime of number. What does it mean? In general, if A less than B, if B less than C, if A greater than B, like that we will be writing. Or if n mod 2 equal to 0, like this we will be checking one condition. Okay, after checking the condition, what will be replaced? It will be replaced by either true or false. Either true or false. Now, if is prime of number, we are calling this one, this will be replaced by either false or true. Okay, any of these two values we will be getting from this function, right? So whenever we call is prime of number, this will be replaced by either true or false. Got it? So it is like if you write if true, then some statement, if false, some statement. Let us say this is a statement 1, this is a statement 2. Which one will be executed? Statement 1 or statement 2? Statement 1 will be executed. Why? Because it is true. We can give directly this one also. I am saying if true, then you execute this one. If false, then you execute this one. False in the sense it is automatically, it will not consider. Understand? Now you come back to this. If is prime of number, then if is prime of number, this will be replaced by true or false. If it is replaced by true, then what we have to print? Given number is, given number is prime number. Otherwise, not a prime. That is else not a prime. Understand? Just we are calling this function by taking the input, we are calling. Actual execution will start from here, that you keep in mind. This is just defining a function. Just we are having a form kind of thing. But without form, if you try to access this, try to call this one is prime. Suppose these statements, although it is execution starts from here, if you write this particular portion from here to here, this particular portion, if you write before this is prime, then what it will do is it will try to see is prime is known to me or not. By the time that does not know what is prime, so it will give you an error. I don't know that. Got my point? Now what we are saying is prime is exist. This is having this kind of functionality that we have established, that we are establishing. Afterwards, we are calling that function. Then it is allowed. If you try to call function without defining or prior to definition, then it will give you an error. It will not allow. Understand? No? What is the functionality of if? That is the problem. What is the functionality of if? If it is true, then only it will consider the statements under it. So whenever it gets true, then it will print it is a prime. If it gets false, it won't be executed. Okay, then it will come to else. Got it? If it is true, then only it will execute this. If it is false, then it will come to else. Why? Because that condition is false. Yeah, you consider whether the given number is even or odd. N mod 2 equal to 0 or not, that is the condition. If n mod 2 equal to 0, then given number is even. Print given number is even. Else given number is odd. So why you are writing else? How it will be operated? First condition n mod 2 equal to 0, that will be replaced by either true or false depending upon the number. If it is replaced by true, then it will print that. If it is replaced by false, then it will not print that, it will come to else. Similarly here also. Okay. Is that condition? Then what is the problem here is, if n mod I is not equal to 0, then you are saying return true. Then what will happen is, suppose if you give 9 as the input. It will start from 2. 9 mod 2. What is the result? Not equal to 0. Then what it should print according to you? Return true. So it will come here true. Then print given number is prime. Is the 9 prime? No. Whenever you find one number which is not factor of the given number, then you are saying it is a prime. But it's not completely true. Got it? Go to the basics. Don't think that if you change here not equal to and false to true, true to false, then it will not be same. Why? Because this is the counter case. Where we are concluding that it is a prime or not prime, we are not just this is for displaying purpose. Okay, we are deciding here itself. So this should be correct first of all. So if you replace these two by putting not equal to, that will not work for all the cases. Like 9 is the best example that I can give, or any other example. You consider 15. You can consider 8 anyway. 2 is divisible. Yeah, 27 you can consider. Any other? You can consider 25. 25 is best example, I can say, because 2 it is not equal to 0. 3 also not equal to 0. 4 also not equal to 0. But it is not a prime. Not it? If you have any confusion with this, this you can assign to one variable, that variable value you can check. Like you can assign like this. Result equal to is prime of number. Okay, like this we are calling. So result is there. If result is true, that means this can be replaced by result equal to true. If result equal to true, print this. Otherwise, print this. Like this also you can. Yeah, you are asking something. Then we can put it there only. Actually, here only we can put print. But usage of the function you need to understand. That's why I have given this. Okay, you need to define a function where we will be getting the value returned back to the place where we have called. Okay, that you need to experience. That's what. Yeah. Yes. Yes. You can do one thing. You return from this function, whenever it is prime, you return 1. Whenever it is prime, you return 1. Instead of true, you return 1. Next, instead of false, you return 0. If it is not a prime, return 0. Then you store into result. If r is equal to 1, print prime. R is equal to 0, print not a prime. Then you will not be having any confusion. False, true. Okay. If if we'll consider whether the given condition is true or false. Okay, there won't be any third possibility, right? In general, we will not have third possibility. Yeah, clear? Write a program to print Write a program to print all the prime numbers from m to n. All the prime numbers range from 1 to n. Not 1 to n, m to n. So input will be m and n. Then write down. How can you do? What is the input? M and n. So afterwards, afterwards we need to start from m. So m we have to check whether it is prime or not. Accordingly, if it is prime, then only we will print m. Next, we have to consider m plus 1. Again, we have to check whether it is prime or not. If it is prime, we will print m plus 1. Next, m plus 2, m plus 3, up to n. So how can we repeat like that? Yeah, we have to start from range of m up to n plus 1. M comma n plus 1. Every time what we have to check? We have to check whether it is prime or not. So we can use the earlier function is prime we have defined, right? So if is prime of I. M means only one time it will work, but for all the times we should vary, right? So is prime of I, is prime of I, then print I, that's it. Print I. If it is not a prime, we need not print. The objective is to print only prime numbers from m to n. So before this, we need to take what is the value of m, what is the value of n. Okay. Prior to this, we need to define is prime. So define is prime as earlier, is prime of number. Okay. Can we take here also n? Okay. Here also n. Actually we can take, but better not to take. Okay. So you change here, that's better. Is prime of, here you use number. Okay. You can use n here and here as well. It will be considered as a different value, but better don't use like that. Why? Because you will get confusion right now. So is prime, now we will be repeating a loop. What was it? For I in range of 2 to plus 1, we will be checking if number mod I is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, we can conclude that it is not a prime number. So we will be returning false. After completing this, if return statement not executed, then we can conclude that it is a prime. So return true. After completing this loop only, this will be considered. That means we didn't find any factor up to n by 2. Then only we can conclude it is a prime. After defining this function only, you should take m value, n value, then you can use this loop to repeat. This is m comma n plus 1, then you can use this. Repeat once. Yeah. Yeah, you can take. Then you need to give one more name, right? For this one, you need to give another name. So another function you have to define. Define print prime of m comma n. M comma n, if you are taking inside this function, you need not supply those. Yeah, you can take. Then you need not take here. Then m comma n, then it will work as it is. Then what is the input? Input will be m comma n. Then you will be calling this print prime m comma n. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. See here, is prime is defined here, okay, and we are using here. So in order to use is prime here, we need to define before only, okay, that we know. In order to use print prime, we need to define prior to usage. So print prime here we are using in the sense prior to this we will be defining this. Here we are using is prime, prior to this we have defined this. So you can have. Yeah, is this your doubt? Next, as of now, we know what is meant by a list. List is nothing but ordered collection of data elements. Those elements, yes or no? List is collection of ordered collection of data elements. We could, which can be changeable. We could able to change. Like L is equal to, if you specify, how we can differentiate? How we can specify it as a list? By using square brackets. So L of, let us consider 10, 20, 30, 40 we are having in a list. We will be having order. Order in a sense we could able to specify at a second position we are having so and so element. At a third position we are having so and so element. Like that we could able to say exactly. Okay, that will be the that can be achieved by using index 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I give L of 1, then we could able to get L of 3, then we will be getting 40. Like this, order is given, indexes will be there, and we could able to modify also. Suppose if I say L of 3 is equal to 50, then 50 will be assigned to L of 3. It is changeable. Okay, this is what we have seen so far. I think this is clear to everyone. Now, let us consider, instead of these indexes, index starts from 0. Okay, every time we will be having index as integer only. Index starts from 0 up to n minus 1. If we have n elements, all these things are fixed. Suppose n elements are there, index will be 0 to n minus 1. That is fixed. For example, if you wanted to give index as your own what you call, as you like, it is not 0. You wanted to give index as you like. Understand? Whenever you give that index, you need not remember, here you need to remember the index to get that particular value. Understand? For example, I can give you one intuitive example. Suppose in the list we can have strings as well, right? In the list we can have strings as well. Now I will be storing your addresses. Okay, now 7, how many? 9. Okay, 9 people addresses I am having. Okay, so address 1, it is a string. Okay, so address 1 I will be storing, next address 2, like this 9 people addresses I will be storing as a strings in a list. Up to this A9. So 9 addresses we are having. Now I wanted to get a second person address. Then this is let us say address. So address of 1, then 0 1, so this address we could able to get. Address of 3, then A4, okay, like that, that address, fourth address we will get. Okay, instead of that, what is more flexible is, here I need to remember these, right, where A2 is address of whom, A3 is address of whom, A9 is address of whom, like that I need to remember. Instead of that, I wanted to give, instead of this index, I wanted to give name. Okay, let us say student 1 address is this one, student 2, okay, this can be name. Okay, I don't know any of your names mostly, except one. What's your name? Seshu. Huh? Teja. Okay, some names. Yeah. Saket. One more name also I know. You told what? Vivek. Yeah, that also I know. So like this, some names we are having and addresses. Okay, corresponding addresses. Now I wanted to retrieve in such a way that address of Vivek means I should able to get corresponding address instead of remembering where that particular address is stored. Try to understand the point. Earlier list means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this only indexes will be there. But here the requirement is we wanted to index by using some what you call user defined index. Okay, we need to have index according to the context. I wanted to use names as the index. Okay, somebody maybe wants to use the real numbers as the index, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. 1.1 means I should get some value, 1.2 means I should get some value, like this. Let us assume you are conducting some experiment, scientific experiment, just assume, okay, you are conducting that experiment, then there are two parameters. Based upon one parameter, you need to vary second parameter. Try to understand, two parameters are there. Based upon one parameter, you need to vary second parameter. So first parameter is having the values ranging from 1 to 2, or specifically 1.0 to 2.0. Okay, it can be any value in between, or you consider 0 to 1. 0 to 1, it is like a probability. Based upon the probability, you will be varying the second parameter. So probability is from 0 to 1. So it can be 0.1, 0.2, 0.15, like this, some values will be there. Let us assume 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 up to 1.0. Okay, based upon that value, you wanted to access corresponding second parameter. Okay, here if you store these values in a list, you cannot map exactly, right? You wanted to have 0.1 as the index, 0.2 as the index, then only you could able to relate exactly. Instead of remembering where that particular second parameter is stored. Understand? Even this is more appropriate. Okay, if you don't understand this, then you relate to that second example. Yeah, now what is the objective? Instead of using index as 0, 1, 2, 3, we can have our own index. Okay, our own index means we should specify, then only system could able to understand, right? We should able to specify name, then address, name, address, name, address. Okay, this is nothing but key and this value. This is the key, this is the value. Okay, whenever we are having one index which is vertical, which we have defined on our own, this particular one we call it as key. Okay, this is key, this is an index. This is what? Value. Key, value, key, value. Like this, key value pairs we will be having, collection of key value pairs we will be denoting like this. Collection of what? Key value pairs. Okay, let us assume we are having like this. Let us say we are having student 1, then corresponding address. Okay, corresponding address we will be having. Next, comma. With comma only we will be separating list items, right? Similarly, here also we will be having student 2 address 2, then comma again, then student 3 address 3. Okay, this we are saying as a kind of a list, but with user defined indexes. Okay, this you can consider as a, okay, as of now you consider like this. Collection of what? Collection of key value pairs. This we call it as dictionary. This we call it as dictionary. Dictionary in the sense, we will in normal dictionary how we will be having words, we will be having corresponding meaning, or whether it is a verb or noun or adjective, something, some information, what is the pronunciation, right? These some examples, all these things will be values. Okay, like we can have more than one line as address, more than one line as address, that we will be having as the value. And what is the key? Student name is the key. So now let us consider this as the dictionary. So you consider this as a D. D is equal to this one. Okay, now we wanted to access address of first student. In general, how we can access? By using index. But what is the index here? Student name itself index. So D of, or you consider here address. Address itself as the name of the dictionary. Okay, address itself as the name of the dictionary. So address of, I will be giving the name of the first student. Then what it will be written? What it will give? Address of the first student. Okay, did you feel the flexibility here? Yes, instead of remembering 0, 1, 2, 3 for what you call, 1 is associated with so and so student, 2 is associated with so and so student. Instead of that, what we are giving? Our own indexes we are able to give, so that key value pairs kind of thing we could able to store, and while accessing also we can use the same index. Got it? So this is called dictionary. Dictionary is a collection of key value pairs. Earlier we have seen this is similar to list only, but index is defined by us. Okay, that like that you can relate until you get some familiarity with this. You remember like that. Yeah. Now we wanted to print entire dictionary. Entire dictionary we wanted to print, just like list, how we will be printing? Print of L means entire list will be printed. Similarly here also you can use print of dictionary, that is dictionary name is address, directly it will print entire thing. Okay, student 1 address 1, student 2 address 2, like this entire keys and corresponding values, key corresponding value, like this it will print. Okay, we could able to print like this. Suppose you wanted to have individual one, then you can use this. Suppose you wanted to know which students addresses are already present, only student names you wanted to get. Try to understand. Here address dictionary, what we have stored? Student name, corresponding address, student name, corresponding address, like this. Now what is our requirement is, we wanted to get only student names names of the students whose addresses are already present. Whose addresses are already present, then you can use one function called, this address is the name of the dictionary, dot keys. Then you could able to get entire keys. Okay, all these STU1, STU2, STU3, all these are keys. Those all keys you will be able to get. Understand? Similarly, if you wanted to get only addresses, irrespective of student name, only addresses you wanted to get, then we can use address dot value. That is name of the dictionary dot values. Okay. Next, if you print this one, then entire thing will be printed. That you keep in mind. Okay. We could able to modify also this one. We could able to modify one particular element, or more intuitively, before seeing that, suppose 3 students addresses we have, we wanted to add 4th student address. Then what we can do is just address of student 4 equal to address 4. Are we having student 4 earlier? No. Now we are creating that one, and that will be appended. Okay, you need not append. Directly we are giving this key and this value, so it will be appended automatically. Okay, now if you try to print address, then it will print 4. Okay, suppose you wanted to modify certain address, student 2 address changed, then you can give address of student 2 is equal to modified okay, like this. What is the vertical functionality? How we can analyze now? Whenever we say this particular one we are trying to assign, means whether this particular key is present in the list dictionary or not, it will check. If it is present, then it will assign, it will update. If it is not present, then it will add new entry. Got it? Like this we can update it or we can append it. This is for appending. Now question is, can we have duplicate keys? Can we have duplicate keys in dictionary? We will not have. We cannot have duplicate keys in dictionary. Now, is it changeable? Yes, we can change. Is it ordered? Yes, it is ordered. Okay. Actually, up to Python, there are so many versions. As you know, Python 3 major changes from 2 to 3. Okay. Now we are using Python 3. Okay. In 3 also we are having so many vertical other versions. 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, like that. Suppose 3.4 means 3.41, like that. Also, some versions will be there based upon the update. Okay. Up to 3.6, these dictionaries are unordered. Okay. From 3.7, what we are using now is 3.9, 10 or 11, 10. Okay. So starting from 3.7, these are considered to be ordered. Dictionaries are considered to be ordered. So you can remember dictionaries are ordered. Got it? Address dot keys of to get some particular key. I didn't get. Yes. Yeah, you can print, but it is not. It is like you are expecting index for index. Keys itself is index. We will not be having such kind of index in general, but if you want to display suppose key value, okay, instead of using this kind of thing, you wanted to print. Instead of using this one, you wanted to print. Then you can use it like this. For I in what is it? Address dot keys. Address dot keys. For every key, we will be checking if I is equal to specified key. Then you print I or something. What is it? Value. Okay, like that you could work out. But directly by using this one, we cannot give any index inside this. Yeah. Now let us try to write some programs related to dictionary so that you will get more familiarity. Yeah, write a program. Write a program to count number of uppercase letters and lowercase letters in the given string by using functions and dictionary. So read the question once. What is the question? To count upper and lowercase letters. How many letters? So what is the input? Input is string. So string in general, we will assume that it will not contain any other characters other than letters, alphabets. Other than alphabets A to Z, we will not be having any other character. Like that you assume. Now we need to count how many uppercase letters are there, how many lowercase letters are there. So what is the output? Input will be the string, then output will be two things. One is number of uppercase, number of lowercase. Okay, this should be the output. So let us give an input as what is the output of this? Output NU will be, NL will be. Okay, like this you should get output. Now how can we write? How can we check? By using ASCII code we can check. By using ASCII code, what is meant by ASCII code? ASCII code is nothing. For every character we will be having a number, integer associated with it. For small a it is 97, for capital A it is 65. So if it is within that boundary, that is 65 to 90, 97 to 122. Okay, 97 to 122. 97 to 122, if we have ASCII code, then we can say it is lowercase letter. 65 to 90, if you have ASCII code, then we can say it is uppercase letter. So accordingly we will be updating. So let us assume we will be maintaining a dictionary. Consists of two things. One is number of uppercase. So we will be giving NU as the key. What is the value? Number of uppercase letters. Next, comma, NL as the key, number of lowercase letters will be the value. Okay. Now, initially we will assume that 0, 0 are the values. key is NU, value is 0. Key is NL, value is 0. That means we haven't counted any letters. We haven't considered so far any letters. So we will be initializing with value zeros. Okay, NU 0, comma NL 0. Afterwards, what we have to do? We have to take string as the input. We have to take string as the input, then count it. So by using functions, we need to write, right? By using functions, let us define one function which is used to count. Okay, count. What is the input for it? String. String is the input. Then the dictionary we need to declare. Okay, let us say C is the dictionary name or D is the dictionary name. D is equal to NU colon 0, comma NL colon 0. Okay. Afterwards, we have to consider character by character of the string. So how can we consider character by character? For C in str, one character by character we will be checking. If we have to compare with ASCII character, ASCII code, how can get ASCII value? ORD function. ORD is the function. Whenever we give ORD of capital A, it will return 65. Like that, ORD of CH means corresponding ASCII value we will get. Okay. Let us consider ASCII value as ASCII value ASC of CH. Now in ASC we are having ASCII value of the considering character, current character. Now we have to check whether this is okay, greater than or if it is in between 65 to 90, then we can say it is uppercase. So ASCII value is greater than or equal to 65 and means and only and ASCII value is less than or equal to 90. If it is true, then what we have to do? We have to increment one value. Okay, what is that, uppercase or lowercase? Which one we have to increment? Uppercase. So D of within double quotes NU. So we don't know where that NU exists, but what is the index? NU only. So D of NU we have to increment. So D of NU equal to whatever the number of characters we are having plus 1. Okay, otherwise else again we have to consider. Why? Because there can be some special character, those we are not considering. Understand? So else if or which one is efficient? We can use can we use if? Yes. Can we use else if? If it is uppercase letter, is there any possibility that character will also be a lowercase? No, right? So if you use if here, what will happen? It will check again unnecessarily. Okay, if it is true, then we need not check this. Whenever it is false, then only we need to check the second condition. That's so what can be used? Else if. Else if means ELIF. Else if. Okay, else if. Now again condition. What is it? ASCII value is greater than or equal to 97 and ASCII value is less than or equal to 122. Then NL we have to increment. For incrementing, what we can use? Plus equal to 1. That's it. This is a shortcut notation. D of like sum is equal to sum plus I means sum plus equal to I we can write. You know it? Yeah. So D of NL plus equal to 1. Now at the end we will be having the dictionary. Okay, dictionary which contains two values. Okay, two key value pairs. So that we can return D directly. We can return D. That you can do. You can print it, but to make it more vertical, you will get more experience if you use this. Return D. Then after this, whenever we are calling this function, we will be getting dictionary. From the dictionary, we could able to retrieve the values. Over. After this, take input here. What we have to take as the input? String we have to take as the input. Let us say S is the input. So S is equal to int input or input we have to. What is the input for it? String only. Suppose the number is the input means integer. We have to use integer. We have to convert that string. But string itself is the input, so we can use directly input. Understand the difference? If we are taking a number, then whatever the string we get, that we will be converting to integer. That's why integer of input we will be using. But we wanted to take string itself, so we will be using directly input. So S is equal to input of string, then we will get string. Then we have to call that function. What is the name of the function? Count, by passing the string, that is S. Then what it will return? D. That means it is a dictionary. So this we will be assigning to one dictionary. Let us say it is DIC. Okay, DICT is a type of the dictionary. Like integer we have seen, right? INT is for integer. Similarly, float is for real numbers. Float. Similarly, STR is for string. Okay, STR is for string. Similarly, we will be having DICT. DICT is for dictionary. This is the type. So we will not, in general, we should not use these names as the variable names. That's why we are differing. DIC equal to count of S. Now we have got the result into dictionary. From dictionary, how we can retrieve? By giving the key. So print. We can print directly. Total dictionary we can print. That's good. If you want, you can access individually. Oh, yeah, you can write. You can write. Now write a program. Write a program to count number of alphabets, number of digits, number of symbols in the given string. Input, string is the input, same input. Then you will be defining a function similar to this. Can you able to complete? Alphabets means it will be both lower and upper, so it will be separately you will count. How you can do that is up to you, how easily you could able to do using this function. You define only one function, then you try to do. How many types of categories we have? How many categories we have? 3 categories: letters, digits, symbols. So letters means either of these, right? These two are letters only. So you can give 2 conditions in one if statement itself. That is, either it can be between 65 to 90 or 97 to 120. Then we will be counting it as alphabets only. Okay, so how can we write? Yeah, ASCII character will be retrieving. Then based upon that, we will be checking whether it is between 65 to 90 or 97 to, this is ASCII value is greater than or equal to 97 and ASCII value is less than or equal to 122, like this way. But how it will be done? Like this R will be considered as between these two. Suppose if it is considered like this, then it will not what you call give correct answer, yes or no. What is our intention is, this we have to consider as one bunch. Okay, this we have to consider as another bunch. If you give like this, how it will consider? Here we are having 2 operators, AND, OR, both are operators. AND operator is there, OR operator is there, again AND operator is there. Okay, whenever we have more than one operator, then it will go for precedence. Okay, what is the precedence of AND OR? What is the precedence of AND OR? If any operators are having same precedence, then we have to consider like D is equal to A plus B minus C. What are how many operators we have? How many operators we have? How many operators we have? How many operators? How many? 3. What are those? Plus, minus, assignment operator equal to. Now, out of these, this is having lowest priority. Assignment operator is having lowest priority. So we need not consider now. Plus and minus are having same precedence. Plus and minus are having same precedence. Now we have to execute like this. Suppose if we have plus and equal to, then we could execute plus. We need not worry. C is equal to A plus B means only plus we are having, equal to we are having, equal to is having less priority. So plus will be executed first, then assignment operator will be executed. But here plus and minus we are having, both are having same precedence. So we have to consider associativity. I told you or not, associativity. Associativity will tell what is the order to follow, either from left to right or right to left. It is not fixed that we have to follow from left to right all the time. It depends upon the operator. When we will go for associativity, there you need to get clarity. Where we will go for associativity? Whenever we have two operators with the same precedence to be executed, then we will decide whether to go from left to right or right to left. Okay, you check today what is the associativity of each and every operator in Python. Okay, in the next class I will ask some operator what is the precedence, what is the associativity. Of course, precedence will be given, based upon that precedence only associativity will also be mentioned. Okay, and now you consider, as of now we don't know what is the associativity of these and R. That's why you could do one thing, simply we could enclose this one in parenthesis so that it will be evaluated first. It will be evaluated. We are increasing the precedence of one particular operator. That's what we are doing. End and R are having same precedence. Okay. So now we are enclosing this one in parenthesis. So we are increasing the precedence of and, so that it will be evaluated first. Next, here also we are putting, so it will be evaluated first. Then R will be performed. Okay, like that. Yeah. Next. D, number of D we have to update, right? D, how we have to update? D should not be like NU, NL. What it needs to contain? Number of letters, number of alphabets. Yeah, number of alphabets. Then number of digits. Then symbols. So number of alphabets, that is NA. Next digits ND. Next symbols NS colon 0. Yeah. Now whenever it is alphabet, then we have to increment corresponding count. So how can we increment? D of NA. Okay. Next, second one is digits. Else if we can use, else if also we can use, but else if is more efficient. Yeah. ASCII value of this one is 48. 0 for 0, ASCII value is 48. For 9 it is 57. Just contiguously we can count. So 48 and ASCII value, if it is less than 57, then we can say number of digits plus equal to 1. Next, one more condition. What is it? Else symbols. Okay, as of now you consider symbols, but spaces will be there. Tabs. Symbols are? Yeah, symbols may not be contiguous. Yeah. Okay, you consider remaining all as symbols only. D of NS plus equal to 1. So this will be repeated until completion of this string. Okay. Then you can return D. You can return D. Then afterwards you can take string as the input. Then you call this count. Then you will get a dictionary. That dictionary you print it. Over. Now I will give some assignment kind of thing. Okay, you do it on your own at home. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can come back. Over. Sorry, here you need to put colon. This you have to write it in the same line, ma. I told you earlier also, I will be putting some errors intentionally in the code. I think by this time you might have understood. So when you execute, then you will able to rectify and make it correct. Okay, note down some exercises. Over. Okay. One is you will be giving two inputs. Two inputs you will be giving. You need to find m power n. We know how we can calculate m power n. M star star n. Or we can use any other thing. M star star n means we will get that. But now the requirement is you have to define a function to find power of m comma n, m power n, to find m power n. So you need to define a function called m power n. This is the function name. Okay, how many parameters we need to have? Two parameters. M is one, n is another one. So you need to give definition. Okay, without using this one you need to do. Okay, finally it has to return what? Some value which is equivalent to m power n. Return some value, let us say v, then that v value should be m power n. How you will obtain? That is exercise for you. Got it? Next, similar to this, we have discussed already towers of Hanoi problem. Did we discuss or not? Yes? Don't know. You know? Huh? Okay. Huh. 3 towers will be there. From here to here we have to transfer by, you know it? Remember it? Okay. So this towers of Hanoi problem with the solution we have discussed. Okay. That you try to implement now. Implement in the sense you execute it. So you have to define a function called towers of Hanoi. How many inputs we have to give? How many inputs? For towers of a number of blocks. Okay, number of blocks. Then where we are having these blocks, that we have to give. That is a source. Next, from to where it has to go, that is destination. Then temporary. So how many inputs total? 4 inputs we have to take. So n, source, destination, then temporary. These 4 are the inputs. Then how you will be solving? By using one technique called recursion. By using the technique called recursion. When we will use recursion? Whenever we could able to solve a problem in terms of the same kind of sub problem, then we will make use of recursion. Understand? I have given you, I think, this kind of example. Suppose you need to count how many so let us assume this entire class is filled. Okay, entire class is filled, for filled in the sense for every bench one student is there. For every bench one student is there. Now I will be asking how many benches are there behind you. Okay, I will be asking first person how many benches are there behind you. That is the problem. So what he can do is he can get up and count all the things. But instead what he can do is he can ask backbench student that how many benches are there behind you. Then after getting that answer, then what he can do, he can add his, then plus 1, then he could able to get. So actual problem is to count how many benches in entire column or entire row. Okay, but how we are solving? By changing the problem size. Okay, instead of counting entire thing, we are counting from here only. To solve that problem, how we are solving? Instead of solving, instead of counting from here, we will be counting from there. That is again sub problem. Again, how we are solving? Again considering sub problem. Like this, one problem we are solving in terms of the same kind of sub problem. Then we can make use of recursion. Okay. Similarly, here in this towers of Hanai also, we will be having n disks. We have to move from source to destination by keeping this one as the temporary. So first n minus 1 boxes we will be keeping here, then largest one we can keep here, then these n minus 1 we will be keeping here. Okay, this is the sub problem. So we have to define this towers of Hanai problem, what you call function. Then you need to invoke. Invoke in the sense, invoking is nothing but calling that function. Then you will get output. It is like output should be, I will be giving one input, 4 boxes. 4 boxes means how many steps will be there? 2 to the power of 3 boxes means 3, 7. 4 means 15 steps. 5 means 31 steps. 2 power 5 minus 1. So 2 power n minus 1 steps will be there. That is from A to B, A to C, something like that we will be getting. So those all steps you need to display. Understand? That will be the output. If I give 6, then you should get 63 steps. All 63 steps you need to get. That should be the output. Yeah. Okay. Already you have solution with you, and everything whatever needed to implement this one you have. Okay, that's for sure. There is nothing new. Just you have to put little time. That's it. Okay, you could able to execute. Okay, no logic is explicit now. Everything is known to you. You implement this second one. So these two you do it, and in the next class we will see other things. Okay, I think you are exhausted, right? See online people.